Good morning, everybody. Happy Passover. It's also obviously Good Friday. I won't say Happy Good Friday because that doesn't seem to make sense, but it's also Good Friday. I have lots of frugal thoughts and frugal doings swirling through my head today, so we're just going to cover a whole bunch of topics as they randomly come spilling out of my mouth. One thing that I've been really amazed, bemused, struck by during the shutdown, the stay at home during the pandemic, is how many people are proclaiming that they're bored being stuck at home. And that kind of blows my mind because to me, boredom is a luxury that I certainly don't have time for. And I think it's a certain age group that seems to be bored the most. People who are maybe used to being constantly entertained because they grew up with this constant input from media and electronics. I don't think people of my generation have such a problem with boredom because we grew up in a time where, sure, there was TV, but there were only a few channels, and there were certainly plenty of Sunday afternoons where there was nothing to watch but baseball. So you didn't sit and watch TV. You pulled out a board game, or you played with your Barbies, or you went for a bike ride. You know what I'm saying? Like when we went on long drives, there was no VHS, what am I saying? No DVD player built into the car. There was no watching movies. There were no games to play on your phone. You played car bingo. You looked out the window and said, oh, a red car. You made conversation. You got incredibly bored. And again, just stared out the window and dealt with your own thoughts. I think there's a lot of value actually into being bored and not being entertained all the time. But apparently a lot of people stuck at home are bored. I think people with kids, not bored, always busy. Young people who are used to being out and about a lot, I mean, I can see if your main thing in life is hiking in the mountains or surfing and you're stuck at home, okay, maybe you're at loose ends. But oh my God, people, come on. There's no reason to be bored. There's so much to think about and do in life. If you don't have any hobby you can do at home, it's time to figure out a hobby. If you can't run off to the craft store to buy knitting yarn and needles and learn to knit because it's closed, then, do yoga. Watch a video, do yoga. Go into your pantry and pull out the weirdest, most random foods in there and try to throw them together and concoct something edible, which is what we're going to do later in this video. Read a book. Read a freaking book, people. You don't have actual real books in your home? Not a real hold it in your hands, turn pages made of paper books? Then you probably have a Kindle or a computer or something where you can read, online or whatever it is technological people do with books. Personally, I like to hold a book in my hands. I like to flip pages. I don't like to read on a screen. Just me. Clean out your closet, people. The shutdown in the stay-at-home business, it won't last forever, and there's going to be a time where you're going to want to make some donations to a thrift store. So, hey, why don't you take this time to sort through your closet? The seasons are changing. Put the last season's clothing away, sort through it. What did you not wear? What doesn't fit? What do you not look forward with joy to ever wearing again? When you look at that outfit and you think, I could wear it, I might need it. Ask yourself, does this outfit do me any favors? Do I really look good in this outfit? If the answer is no, get rid of it. Sort through your closet. Sort through your junk drawer in your kitchen. Clean your house top to bottom. I know, not the most exciting thing to do in the world, but there's no reason to say, oh, I'm bored. I don't know what to do with myself. I'm so bored. I just spent 3 hours on Instagram. Now what do I do? I think I'm preaching to the choir here, frugalistas and dumpsterinos, because I don't think you guys are in the habit of being bored. I don't get it. There's lots to do. Yesterday, the kids and I went for a little walk around town, a social distancing kind of walk. I mean, town was pretty deserted. We really didn't run into anybody. On the other side of the street, there was another family walking with kids. We kind of nodded, hey, no interaction, no coughing on each other. But I was explaining to them that it was Maundy Thursday and tomorrow's Passover and Good Friday and then Easter. I think it all started because they asked me when Easter was and they wanted to know about the Easter Bunny. And I was like, well, we need to have a little chat because for the children of somebody with a Master of Divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary, why, I think they're religious knowledge is a little bit lacking. So I launched into this, I have to say, beautiful, thorough, and very cohesive and articulate explanation of the Hebrew people's time in bondage in Egypt and Moses and where Passover comes from and how the Jewish people have their identity as God's chosen and they had the promised land and 40 years in the desert, boop, 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 boop. I mean, really good. Good explanation, Frugal Mommy. How Jesus was a Jew, the Last Supper. Hey, we've seen that painting, Leonardo da Vinci. Oh yeah, Mona Lisa. Yep, same guy. Last Supper, that was a Passover meal. Easter, boom, we did it all. So then I like to follow up those kind of rambling articulations with a movie because I think the visual representation, the visual they see on screen, I think it really kind of helps solidify the whole explanation. So I say, hey, there's a really good movie about all that Moses 10 Commandments stuff, and it was called The 10 Commandments. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and it turns out it was one of Frugal Daddy's favorite movies too. So we brought up The 10 Commandments from the 1950s, starring Charlton Heston, on the YouTube, and we watched about half of it last night. I mean, that is a long movie. Now, like I said, as a kid, I really liked that movie. Now, as an adult, so many years later, Hollywood has progressed in a way. I mean, it is one of those big old-fashioned Hollywood blockbusters. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. In terms of historical accuracy, I mean, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good representation of the biblical account, and it's very interesting. There's some really interesting stuff going on in that story. I mean, when Moses is floating down the river in a basket, and the Pharaoh's daughter plucks him out of the river, and she's kind of hanging out down by the river with her handmaids, and they're kind of giggling, and they're wearing like these 1950s style kind of, am I a Greek goddess? Am I a bathing beauty? What am I wearing here down by the river? And then they have these outfits, and I mean, that part's a little probably not too accurate. But overall, you get a pretty good gist of the story, the plagues, the killing of the innocents, all that stuff. The Hebrew slaves building pyramids and cities and things. So anyway, personally, hey, if you haven't seen it ever or haven't seen it in a while, I say take a look at the 10 Commandments. At one point, as we're watching, and I'm looking at Charlton Heston, oh, the young Charlton Heston, you know, and he has no shirt on, and he has his little kind of like son of the Pharaoh loincloth on. I said, out loud perhaps, man, he was hot. At which point Neve goes, well, you know, Mom, it is really hot in Egypt. Egypt is one of the hottest places. And I said, you're right, it is really hot there. He looks really hot, yeah. So there's that. Don't be bored. Watch the 10 Commandments. Then Frugal Daddy and I had a discussion about how they really should have a remake of this movie. We think it should be updated with a little more cultural accuracy. So we were trying to figure out who should play what part, who should be Moses. I mean, we really didn't come up with any great ideas other than I really love Liev Schreiber, but I don't think he should play Moses. I mean, that's as far as it went. And who could play Ramses? I mean, come on, Yul Brynner. Oh my goodness. I mean, yes, Charlton Heston was hot, but Yul Brynner, I'm sorry. I'd much rather go with Ramses. I mean, as the movie progresses. Because I have to say, Moses does get a little self-righteous and full of himself and a little bit boring. Ramses, still quite interesting. So there's that. Now, another interesting thing that the pandemic lockdown is making clear to me is there are gaps in my prepper pantry. And I think that's a good thing to realize. So that once I'm in a position to start stocking up my prepper pantry again, I can fill in the gaps. Like, for example, I have a lot of canned foods, obviously, right? I don't feel like I have enough canned tomatoes. I feel like there's an overrepresentation of canned green beans and possibly canned corn. Not enough tomatoes. And, you know, you use tomatoes in everything. Soup, spaghetti sauce, chili, like all the make a big pot of food kind of meals, you need your canned tomatoes, in my opinion. I'm low on canned tomatoes. And spices. I mean, some spices I'm pretty good on. Garlic, salt, I've got a lot of, cinnamon. But, you know, it's a good time to look through your food stash and see where the holes are. So once we're back in the stores and able to stock up again, we kind of know where we need to fill in. Today, I'm going to throw together my prepper pantry soup, which, as you can imagine, is going to be an utter delight. Basically, a bunch of canned vegetables thrown into a pot. Canned vegetables that otherwise, I'm going to tell you, nobody in the house really wants to eat. Nobody really wants canned carrots. If we were hungry enough, sure, people might eat canned carrots, but if they have a choice, these kids aren't going to eat canned carrots. So in a soup, I think a lot of vegetables that aren't really popular become more edible, because they just start to taste like salty soup. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to show you the croutons I made yesterday. Yes, I made homemade croutons. Very, very easy to do. Frugal Daddy got some really nice hoagie rolls. You know hoagies, submarine sandwiches, grinders they call them in New England? The long sandwich on the big, long French roll, sort of, as it were. Not really a baguette, but it looks like a baguette. Anyway, he got a bunch of nice, fresh, beautiful hoagie rolls out of the sub shop's dumpster. Fabulous. Great sandwiches. But then some of the rolls started to get hard and a little stale, as they will when you forgot to put them in plastic and they're just sitting in a paper bag. So I cut them up. I cubed them. I mean, it's not really something I have to demonstrate. This isn't rocket science, making croutons, peeps. There's different ways to do it. Lots of different ways. You could go way gourmet than I did. But basically, I cut them up into cubes, which actually was the hardest part because the bread was kind of hard. Cubed, lay it out on a cookie tray. I had the oven at about 275. I sprayed my little bread cubes with an olive oil cooking spray, possibly not the healthiest. You could always do a shake and bake style type thing where you put your bread cubes in a baggie, pour in some olive oil, shake. But I just sprayed the cooking spray over because easy. And then I sprinkled on the garlic salt, all from the dumpster, all of it. Toasted them up in the oven for a while, and oh my goodness, shockingly delicious and quite addictive. So today it's going to be veg soup with homemade croutons. We'll take a look at some other things. I think we have some things we've pulled out of dumpsters to show you that I haven't shown you. I don't even know if we have video footage of the actual dumpster dive. I mean, we're falling apart here, people. We are falling apart. Anyway, what was my other thing I wanted to say? What was, Now, in terms of keeping your spirits up during this worldwide crisis and being, staying at home, locked up at home, obviously one's spirits can flag a bit. I tend to have been obsessively watching news videos on the virus, and I've been watching President Trump's daily updates, which can go on for 2 or 3 hours. But I've gotten to the point now in the last few days where I'm really not watching them because I turn them on and, we're really not hearing anything new. It is the same, literally word for word stuff, and questions aren't really being answered, and it's just not getting me anywhere. And I am realizing, again, something I've always known that we all know is you have to be careful what information, what input you are absorbing into your brain. And if you want to keep your spirits up, you might not want to obsessively watch nothing but coronavirus, COVID-19 videos. I knew that as I was watching them, but yet I was fascinated and addicted to these videos, so I kept watching them. But now I'm more like, they're not really giving me anything new. I check in every day because I want to stay updated, but not for hours on end. So I'm trying to watch things on Netflix that are more fun and uplifting. So I want to recommend to you things I've been watching on Netflix, just in case you are saying to yourself, well, what are you watching? What's fun? What's funny? What should we watch to keep our spirits up? If you haven't already seen it, you know what I'm saying? You might have already seen this stuff. I'm not the first one to pick up on stuff. But there's a Canadian show on Netflix. I think we have 4 seasons out of it now. You may have seen it, but hey, watch it again. So cute, so funny, Kim's Convenience. About the Kim family, a Korean family in, I believe, Toronto, who owns a convenience store. So funny, so lighthearted, so sweet. Characters that you just love, one and all. So I recommend Kim's Convenience. There's also a show that was on Showtime that you can get on Netflix with 5 seasons called Episodes. Very, very funny. Obviously it's been around for a while, so you may have seen it already, but if you haven't, Episodes with Matt LeBlanc from Friends playing himself. Very funny. Not kid-friendly in terms of language and curse words and so forth, but for a grown-up audience, Kim's Convenience can be watched by children. It's very, very adorable. Anywho, let's get on to looking at some of the stuff we've dragged out of dumpsters lately, and I'll I'll show you my croutons. I know, pretty exciting. Soup. Oh, the other thing. Yes, a lot of people are out of work now. I mean, the jobless claims in the United States, what are we at now? Something like 15 million? That's a lot of people. Now, I think a lot of people will go back to work once we open up the economy again, but not everybody might. I mean, who knows? Who knows when that's going to be? Who knows what it's going to look like? And that's a lot of people. And, you know, it's not like in 2008 when so many, what do I want to say? A lot of middle class people fell out of the middle class and had to learn to be frugal for the first time. I think a lot of these people who are unemployed now, all of a sudden, these are people who are living paycheck to paycheck to begin with. These were people in the service industry. These are people who have already had to be frugal for a long time. I'm not saying there aren't people who are new to frugality and are going to need to be picking up some frugal tips and frugal recipes, but I think this particular wave of unemployment is really hitting hard people who, you know, weren't living high on the hog with massive 401ks to begin with. So times are tough. So soup, my recommendation is soup. As we all know, soup is a great way to use up leftovers. Soup really stretches out your ingredients, obviously, because a lot of what you're filling up on can be broth. You can throw a lot of things together and add some seasonings and make a decent soup, and soup is good food. So I recommend soup. That's my frugal tip of the day. Soup and watching the 10 Commandments and picking up new hobbies, right? Get a piece of paper and a pencil and start to draw a picture. You always wanted to sketch? Go ahead. Now's the time. No excuses. No being bored. You're so boring, Frugal Mommy. Stop talking. Show us the croutons. Okay, I will. So there you go, folks. There's some croutons. I know. Amazing. They taste even better than they look. They're actually quite delish because they taste like little, hard, crunchy, buttery, salty, garlicky, well, not real butter, but olive oil spray, crunchy croutons. And now we're putting together our Prepper Pantry dumpster soup. Yeah. We have some broth in the pot, and we're going to pour in some crushed canned dumpster black beans, Green Giant, sliced carrots. I'm just going to put my 1970s Ginsu knife in there and chop them into even smaller bits. And then into the pot they go. Why, you can use any kind of broth you want, or just water, though it's going to need a lot of salt. Woe to those of you on a low sodium diet, because, I don't know, soup that's not salty just doesn't taste that good. And boop, we've got green beans. And we're going to use the same cutting technique to make them smaller. Yes, this is a genuine Ginsu knife. Frugal Daddy's had it for many years. And it is sharp. And I've cut myself with his Ginsu knives, more than once. Beans in. I could put in canned corn, but the kids really love their canned corn, and I don't want to, bogart their corn. We're going to put in some diced tomatoes from another crushed dumpster can. Now here we have a chopped up onion that we're going to put in, and I'm just showing you the outside of the onion that I cut off. I left it there on the side to remind me to tell you that, in case you don't already do this, in case you don't know about this. Save all of your bits and bobs and ends of veggies. Like if you're using fresh raw veggies and you cut the tops off the carrots, save those. Save ends of things, ends of green beans, or the tops of celery if you don't eat the leafy parts. Or if you're cooking Brussels sprouts and you snip off the bottom part where the stem is and a couple of the outer leaves come off, save those. Save all of these bits and bobs and ends and pieces of vegetable. Put them in a big baggie, put them in your freezer, and then when your baggie is all full, you take them out, you pop them into boiling water or simmering. You simmer a long time, and you make your own vegetable stock that way. Now, vegetable stock I've made that way doesn't actually tend to taste good. It tastes like dirt water. But I use it when I make rice. It gives a good flavor, let's say. It doesn't make the rice taste like dirt, but I figure it adds some nutrition. And of course, if you're a better cook than I am, you can use it as your broth base. whatever you put in it obviously is going to impact the flavor of your vegetable broth. If you have a whole bunch of broccoli stems in it, it'll taste more like broccoli. If you have a whole bunch of asparagus stems or whatever, I think you get the point. But anyway, that's why I just have these sitting here to remind me to mention that to you, to save all your vegetable snippings, because you can turn them into a vegetable broth. And I'm just going to add these chopped onions now into my soup pot. All right, now here in the bottom of this pot, I've just a little tiny bit of lentils. My older daughter cooked some lentils, and I put them in a, Tupperware container in the fridge, and this little bit of lentilage didn't fit in the Tupperware container, so I thought, hey, just throw it in with the rest of the soup ingredients. So, lentils, super source of protein. I also have canned potatoes and fresh potatoes, but I have canned potatoes I could add, but Frugal Daddy really, really loves canned potatoes for whatever reason, so again, I don't want to use those because he likes them, cuts them up and fries them. He likes them just the way they are. I know this isn't the most amazing looking concoction so far, but it will be. We'll add spices and excitement. Something else I'm going to add that I've never done before is Israeli couscous. That's right, Israeli pearl couscous. I actually wanted to add some barley to the soup. I love barley in a soup, but I don't think I have any. And then I saw this couscous that I thought, oh, what the heck, just pour some of that in. Now that will suck up some of the liquid as it cooks, and if it makes the soup thicker and more like a stew, well, that's just fine. Also, of course, if you want your soup thicker, you could always put in some instant mashed potato flakes, and that would thicken the broth right up. If you want it to be a creamier sort of soup, but you're not actually adding cream. All right. So here's the soup pot on the stove now. We're going to turn on the heat. Obviously, the canned foods are already cooked. The onions need to cook. The couscous needs to cook. Everything needs to cook. Flavors need to meld. I have a butternut squash here. I thought about cutting this up into little bite-sized cubes and throwing that in, but then I thought, oh, just make a totally separate batch of pureed squash soup. That'll be much better. I still have several squashes from my last dumpster squash haul. I have a lot of frozen kale as well. I could throw some leafy kale in. I'm not sure. Not sure if I will. I don't want this to have an overwhelming kale flavor, but anywho, there you go. Vegetable soup. Probably the easiest thing ever to make from your prepper pantry supplies. And then depending on the spices you add, you can give it a fun, a little ethnic twist without being culturally appropriative. I mean, if you want it to have sort of a Mexican flavor, then, add some salsa, add some chili powder, add some cumin. If you want it to have a sort of an Indian flair, then add some curry powder. If you want it to have a Thai vegetable soup feel, then squeeze in some lime juice and throw in some lemongrass and some galanga, if you happen to have lemongrass and galanga lying around, which I personally do not right now. But, you know what I'm saying. Add different spices to make this basic vegetable soup come alive. Heck yeah. I think I might squeeze some lime juice in just because I like lime juice in things. I have a dear friend whose father used to make big pots of vegetable soup like this. Well, meat too, not always just vegetable, but basically just throwing all his leftovers from the fridge in a big pot, and he would stir in some peanut butter, and she always thought that was really, really, really weird. And as a teenager, I thought that was really weird too. But I've done that because I think in certain African soups, they stir in peanut butter, and it's actually quite delicious, and that will also thicken your broth. There's nothing wrong with some peanut in there. Well, unless you're allergic, of course, that would be very, very wrong. You can do so much with a soup. I don't need to tell you. Add meat if you want. Add canned meat. Don't really recommend tuna. Actually, if you are going to add something like canned chicken, I wouldn't do it till the very, very end, because again, that canned chicken is already cooked, and it kind of dries it out if you keep cooking it in the soup. You know what I mean? Like, even though it's wet because it's in soup, it kind of just gets dried out. Trust me on that. I think this is going to be a really good, nutritious soup. It's got your couscous in it. It's got the beans. It's got the different vegetables. Tomatoes are fabulous for you. Obviously, we know carrots are great for you. I don't need to tell you, so just stop talking, Frugal Mommy. Just let your soup cook. Here are a few things I can show you that Frugal's daddy has pulled out of a dumpster lately. A zillion of these brightly colored Easter buckets that sold for 49 cents each. And, you know, they're not broken. And, I mean, the handles are off on some, but they just need to snap back onto the little handle doohickeys. And the girls have been having fun with these, and we got a lot of them. I'm not quite sure out of whose garbage he got this stuff, but he's pretty psyched about getting some new kitchen utensils, which, as you can see, we don't need. He said, which should we keep? I should probably dust off my little pie server before I show it. Haven't used that one in a while. We've got spatulas and cooking things galore in our handy-dandy crocks here. So I say to him, do we really need another spatula? Do you really think we need another spatula? Or ladle, or pasta stirrer, or whatever. I don't know. I don't think we do. I say donation, but he's pretty excited. Got a couple little plastic bins as well. That's some dog food. You've seen me pull tons of dog food out of the dumpster, and there's some of it right there. Also, Frugal Daddy had found us a new vacuum recently. It's another Shark. It works really, really, really well. This was in somebody's personal trash, and I think what he found when he opened it up were 2 bobby pins in there. They'd sucked up these 2 bobby pins, and they were causing a clog in the sucky tubes because, you know, everything else that was coming after the bobby pins, like little scraps of paper and cat hair and, you know, this stuff you vacuum up, everything was getting caught on the bobby pins. So these people just threw it out because they said to themselves, hey, it's not sucking anymore. And they got rid of it, and Frugal Daddy fixed it. So yet again, another Shark. We've got a cat. Does it even have a head? Look at it. It's all curled up. I see whiskers right there. So I think under this paw. Oh, there's a little baby kitten head. And there's his brother. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Over here in the dining room window by the cat condo, I wanted to show you these are the ends of romaine hearts. Lettuce we have pulled out of the dumpster. And you just, you know, you cut off your lettuce, right, and leave some romaine heart at the bottom. You give the bottom a fresh cut. This is not a fresh cut now, but it was. And then if the lettuce is still alive, it starts growing again. You can do this with celery. I mean, I'm hoping that these will sprout roots so I can actually plant them in the ground. Like this one, not really growing, so that's going to get tossed out to the squirrels. More over here. I mean, look, they're growing again. I also have that going with spring onions. So what I would do is cut off the green bits of the spring onions and leave some of the, you know, the bottom part of the stem attached to the root, keep the root in water, and use the stem, chop it up in a salad or whatever, and then it's continuing to grow, and the roots are growing a lot. Like, I feel like I can definitely plant these in dirt, but we are keeping our spring onions going, which is so fun. And people are always telling me that I can do this with pineapple plants, which I've tried, and it never ever works for me, but you can. This beauty in the window is Lemangelo. That's its name, and it is a lemon tree, and we've been nurturing it for years, and I don't know why there's a stick in there with Lemangelo. It hasn't produced any fruit yet, but I think eventually it will. Right, Pumpkin? Yeah, is Lamange gonna make some fruit? I see you back there, you sneaky thing. Pumpkin's becoming a little bit of a manatee. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb your nap. Alrighty, here's my soup bubbling away. I think that the couscous are cooked, and it's much thicker, which makes me think the couscous are cooked. It's more like a vegetable stew. It's a stew now. It's a stew now, which is fine. And I can't wait to have a nice big bowl of it with a whole bunch of garlicky croutons on top. Doesn't that look good? Yes, it is good. And hot. I like the little couscous in there. So, soup is good food. Vegetable stew, beautiful soup. So anyway, Dumpsterinos, I feel like we have other things we could talk about, and I have other things I could show you, but I feel like the video is kind of running long now, and you've got other things to do, like go watch Kim's Convenience and learn to knit and read a book and clean out your junk drawer. So, for now, and plus I need to go eat my soup. For now, I shall say thank you for watching. I hope you guys are having a great Passover and a great Good Friday. And I hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy and staying inside, and hang in there, everybody. Hang in there. I love you guys. See you again soon. Bye. Yeah, Mom. Really hot in Egypt.